Hello everybody. So today I want to analyze Tesla the product, i.e. Tesla the automobiles, and I want to analyze it through the lens of 0 to 1 and the book 0 to 1 from Peter Thiel. You may know Peter Thiel from PayPal. They both were at PayPal with Elon Musk. And so Elon Musk has a clear understanding of what a 0 to 1 product is. What is a 0 to 1 product? That's a product that's radically better than the competition. Products that are radical, that are so much better than the competition, will get adopted. It's just the nature of the game. In the past, companies used to compete. You have Tide laundry detergent, and you have another laundry detergent that comes around that says, "Oh, buy my laundry detergent. I'm 20% better." Right? That's not enough to break away customer loyalty. That's not enough to push someone to make the switch. People are lazy. People are faithful to their brands. And they're not going to make the switch to something new if you offer them something that's just a tad better, that's 20 or 30% better. But they are going to make the switch if you offer products that are 10 times better. And more often than not, once you find a company that offers something that is 10 times better, what you have is you have a complete disruption of the existing marketplace. And typically that disruptor, that company that disrupts, typically ends up in a situation that is near monopolistic. And we've seen that over and over and over again with tech companies, right? Netflix comes to mind, but even back in the day with the adoption of electricity and the hurt that electricity did to anything that had to do with steam, and we could go on with so many examples. What happens is once you have a product that is so much better than what you used to do in the past, it gets adopted. Color TVs got adopted, microwaves got adopted. The type of investing that I do is well rooted into this idea of a product adoption and this idea of the S-curve. Once you have a product that is 10 times better, not 20% better, but 10 times better, one order of magnitude better, sometimes 2 orders of magnitude better, what happens if you have this little curve that keeps happening, which is a S-curve, where we see complete adoption of a product across a period of 10 to 15 years. My style of investing is going into the stock that disrupts early on, in the early days. And sure enough, Teslas are 5 to 6% of the market for autos right now. So it's a good time to get in for me. At least that is what I think. No investment advice. I want to go in early. And then I want to get out when there's signs of a growth slowdown. The day Teslas are everywhere and the day Teslas are as pervasive as the iPhone, maybe the day where I'll start thinking about taking my capital gains on the stock. We'll see when that happens, and we'll see if they come up with even more compelling products down the line. But in the meantime, right now, we are at the beginning of this product adoption. So let me walk you through a little bit of a 10x analysis. And this chart is to be read like this. We have Tesla cars and what they do in general, right? That's a 10,000-foot overview. And then we have legacy automobiles and what they do in general. And then we have how much better is the new product compared to the old product. So let's get started. So Tesla cars, how much does it cost to charge a car? Well, it depends on the price that you pay per kilowatt hour, but typically between $4 and $7 for 350 miles is what you're going to pay at home typically. So I put it at $6 here. How much are you going to pay to fill your your full tank of gas? How much is that going to cost? In the US, $50 to $70. So I put it kind of halfway to $60. That's 10 times cheaper. It is 10 times cheaper to buy your mileage, right? To buy your 300 miles on a one-time charge or a one-time tank. The charge is 10 times cheaper. That right there is powerful. That right there gets adopted. You have a built-in market for this, company fleets, the proverbial soccer mom who has to do a full tank of gas every other day. This is powerful stuff, right? It doesn't matter your opinion of Elon Musk or your opinion of Tesla or panel gap, in the early days, all that stuff. That doesn't matter if you're paying 10 times less in the main cost of owning a vehicle, which is gas. That is the main cost. So 10 times better there. Moving on to now How long does the car last? Well, legacy autos, I'm going to say they last about 200 miles. After 200 miles, you start really having problems. And really, it's more economical to just change to a new vehicle. How much do Tesla cars last? Well, we know most Tesla batteries are at least sized for 400 miles and the amount of charge and discharge right now. So 400 miles is typically what you'll find. But you may remember the early day Teslas, a lot of models, you had the 1 million mile warranty. They went as far as giving a 1 million mile warranty on their Tesla. And sure enough, there is this Tesla taxi driver somewhere in Germany, I believe was 1.4 million miles or something like that. So I'm going to put Tesla at more than 400 miles. So it's going to be a minimum of double the lasting, right? The car is going to last minimum double compared to legacy auto and could be up to a 5x. That's where I'm going to put it. So again, we're not talking about 15% better than Tide here. We're talking about, 100 to 400% better. Let's talk about moving parts. Why do we care about having as few moving parts as possible? Because the fewer moving parts you have, the fewer repairs you're going to have, the fewer maintenance you're going to have, the fewer issues you're going to have. Teslas in general, they have 10 to 20 moving parts. That's because of electric engines, right? In electric engines, you only have one moving part, right? The rotor, but the stator doesn't move. So that's how few moving parts Tesla cars tend to have. Now, legacy auto, how many moving parts do you have? Well, a gas engine, that's going to be at least 100 moving parts, and then you have the gearbox, and you have all of that stuff. And so it's tough to give you an estimate, but I'm going to put it between 100 and 200 moving parts. So you have 10 times less moving parts for Tesla cars than you have for legacy autos. Why does it matter? Because whenever you have a moving part in mechanics, whenever a part moves, you increase the odds for something going wrong. You increase the odds for something breaking. Having as few moving parts as possible and as few parts as possible too, as Elon Musk famously says. The best part is no part. That is the way to make your vehicle much more durable. Let's talk about maintenance. How much maintenance do you have on a Tesla? Very little, close to none, right? Replacing your tires. That's about it. That's about the only maintenance. How much maintenance do you have on legacy auto? Well, you have every 3 to 5 years, you have a big maintenance to go through, but every 6 months, 9 months, you're going to have an oil change, rotation, fluids filled, etc., etc., etc. And we have big repairs for automobiles that occur after, say, the 150,000 mile mark. Things like transmission, for example, cost very expensive. There's a lot of repairs that support an entire industry that are based on repairing legacy autos, ICE cars, gas cars. That is essentially gone for Teslas. There's very little maintenance on a Tesla, so that's a priceless difference. As I'm gonna say, it's a priceless difference. Now let's talk about software updates. Now, when you buy a legacy car, legacy auto, let's say you buy a 2013 car, you buy it used, the software, when you get into that car, is the same as it was in 2013. It really hasn't changed, right? That's not the case for Tesla. Teslas go through software updates. You get the latest software, no matter how old your car is. So your car may be a 2019 or 2018. You're gonna get the same software. You're gonna get the updates. So the car really updates much more like a phone and is not working like a car. So the car does not get outdated nearly as fast and gets the latest feature as they get rolled out for everyone. Also, you can do over-the-air updates whenever you want to improve something about the car. This Tesla will have an over-the-air update and your car will improve on its own. I put this as a priceless difference. It's priceless. Moving on to gas station. What's the value of not having to go to a gas station? Did you know that gas stations, you have a lot of crime at gas stations. Your odds of getting your car stolen, for example, are very high at gas stations. There's a lot of issues at gas stations. can't really remember how it is in Europe, but I know in the US, gas stations are main points to sell alcohol. There's often alcohol that is sold at gas stations in the US, and because of that, you get to a lot of issues that happen. In fact, when you go get your gas at night, you may not notice, it may be subjective, but oftentimes people will go out of their way to choose a well-lit gas station because they subconsciously know that going at the gas station is not a cherished part of a driver's experience, right? And some people use gas stations as bars or like a dating site or something like that, and you get into encounters that you don't want in a gas station. And actually, gas stations are very high spots for crimes. So are convenience stores, and guess what? Convenience stores and gas stations are often one and the same in the US. I argue that not having to go to the gas station is a priceless difference for Teslas. One last thing I'll say about gas stations is that they tend to typically be pretty dirty. Have you ever seen a diesel pump? A diesel pump, right, covered in oil, etc. Anyways, I put this as a priceless difference, and one of the things when you discuss with Tesla owners, one of the great joys that they have is that they don't have to go to a gas station, and they haven't been to a gas station in years. And this is actually a major benefit for Teslas, one that we may not always think about. Another major benefit that I think more people think about that one, which is buying online. No negotiating, no more haggling. You don't have to go through the quote-unquote dance with the car salesman who puts you in a room, kind of locks you in a room, kind of tells you all of the goodies and all the prices, and then you negotiate and you're like, oh, I'm unhappy with a price, and then they fake it, they act like they leave and they go talk to their manager, and then you go see a warranty salesman that isn't even pushier, and then you go see the financing salesperson who tries to sell you a bad loan. All of this dance is what I'm going to call it, this dance that you see at a traditional dealership. All of that is gone when you buy a car online. I argue that is a priceless difference. There's actually hilarious surveys online about what people would rather do than go to a dealership, which is fascinating to me. So dealership to me is an outdated way to selling, and I think legacy companies like Ford, for example, are entirely right to try to get out of a dealership. We live in a world where people don't want to talk. We live in a world where people go from chat box to chat box, from app to app, and they don't want to have to deal with other humans when they buy cars, especially when they buy cars, right? So anyways, that's kind of a point. You can keep your opinion, your view as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's a different story. The truth is that's the world we're headed at. People don't want to go in a dealership, sit 5 hours and have 5 hours of pressure. They dread it. And buying online is a major advantage of a Tesla. Price difference is priceless here. Onboard computer versus not even close. So you have an onboard computer at a Tesla. So that means that you can do things like watch Netflix, like play video games, like watch YouTube, and eventually maybe you can, as we'll see in the last one, maybe you can resell some of that compute power. Maybe you can have generative AI eventually, and of course self-driving, full self-driving will come. So this onboard computer is very valuable for a Tesla car. And legacy autos, of course, they call it a computer, right? Was it the OBD2 or whatever they call it? But it's not even close. Let's face it, it is not even close. It's not even funny. I put this at 100x. I put this at 100x. And in a prior video that I've made on the topic, we know that hardware 4 in Tesla is equivalent to a very expensive $1,400 GPU RTX 4080 or something like that. So it's not even comparable. It's not even a computer. That's why this is one of these moments where Teslas are obviously a tech product, a consumer tech product, and not an appliance like a car is. A car is an appliance, doesn't change in 70 years, just like a washing machine, right? Let's talk about the highest safety ratings. Teslas consistently have the highest safety ratings. You may know that it broke tests. I think it was the Euro NCAP test that the maximum is 5 out of 5, and it got like a 5.2 out of 5. One time they broke a machine doing the test. Another time they had a toppling over for the car test, and it didn't do it because the car had such a low center of gravity because of the batteries being under your seat. So anyways, the car has very, very, very strong safety ratings, and this is showing again with the new vehicles that they just released with the Cybertruck, where it's literally bulletproof. And I am actually, safety ratings, right, are related to durability. I am actually very curious about the bulletproof feature in the Cybertruck, and wondering when they release the Model 2, maybe the Model 2 is going to have that same steel alloy around it that is also bulletproof. So I think it's going to be a very interesting world, to see how many of the Tesla cars, as they refresh them, for free, well, the free they just refresh, so the free is not going to get it, but they'll refresh the Y one day, and they'll refresh the free again one day. When they refresh them, is bulletproofing of the car going to be expanded to other vehicles? I don't know. That'd be interesting. But that's obviously a priceless difference, because none of the legacy automobile does that. So that's a priceless difference. Air filter. They have HEPA air filter. So if you know anything about HEPA, it's what they have at hospitals in sterile rooms. And so that's actually pretty darn amazing, the demonstration that they do for their HEPA filter. And if you want to have the best hair going in your Tesla, this is mostly non-existent and does not apply to most legacy automobiles. So again, this is a priceless difference. Let's talk about acceleration. So most people, I would argue, when they go buy cars, they don't think about acceleration. That's not something that you have a preconceived notion of, unless you try it or you're a sports car fan. And of course, you have sports car fan who are all about, I want to have a fast car. But this is not something that, the regular car buyer would even seek, I don't think. But with Tesla, you don't have to seek it. You get it anyways. So you get acceleration with Teslas that is equivalent to what you would get in a $200,000 car, right? And now we have the bulk of the Teslas in their standard, not their cheap price mode, but in their standard price or long-range price. Most of these Teslas do between a 1.98 and a 2.5 seconds acceleration 0 to 60, which is what a very high-end sports car would technically do. So I'm going to put this at a 4x difference, because even though you can get this with Legacy Auto, you're going to have to spend $200,000 to get the equivalent acceleration. And there's much, much more than just acceleration, right? It's the way it handles, it's the way it turns, it's the way, it takes different turns on the road. There's many advantages beyond just acceleration. You also have 200 and, you have a lot of metrics that you can use where Tesla keeps consistently beating the competition. Now let's talk about Tesla insurance. Tesla insurance is about twice as cheap as what you would get with a traditional insurer. And the reason for that is because Tesla, of course, they're a vertically integrated giant. If there is any problem, they want to insure you, and they want to make sure that they're the ones who handle your repairs. That's a 2x difference, in my view. Could be more. We'll see where that goes. As more people adopt Tesla vehicles, imagine if you live in a world where Teslas are 50%. I mean, my base case has never been that Tesla will be 50% of the cars. But the more I see what's happening with Legacy Auto and how they are just giving up, the more I see a possible future where 50% of the cars are Tesla. Like, what is going on? Why are they giving up? They're giving up electric. Like, literally, like if you look at GM, they've postponed it by a year. They're not fighting this fight. So you could get into a situation where Teslas are more than 20% of the cars sold. And then you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for the insurance industry, right? You could get in a situation where non-Tesla insurance goes through the roof because the good drivers are not there to finance the cars that break down. Being the legacy cars, the gas cars are those that break down, those that don't have the FSD options, those that don't have all of these active safety features. Right? What's the value to an auto company to have a 5-star crash-rated car? Well, that value is pretty high. That value is pretty high because, a lot of the cost of insurance is what happens in terms of medical costs, there is an accident. So that's a very high value. When your car is much more safe, that's a very high value for insurance. I'm very bullish about this sector. Let's talk about the other benefits that are non-car benefits that you get when you buy a Tesla. Home battery backup. That's it. They've just introduced bi-directional charging. So all of a sudden, when you buy a Tesla, you're also buying, 8, 7 to 15 Powerwalls. Quite simply. You're buying Powerwalls in the form of a car that's going to be sitting on your driveway most of the time. And that battery in your car, when it's charged, it can be used as a backup for your home. In a prior video, I made a calculation that the Cybertruck in its basic version could cover about 7 days of electricity use for the average American home. That has a tremendous benefit. You're disrupting things like home energy generator and all that sort of stuff. Moving on, what else do you have? You can store energy in your car for resale, right? When peak energy prices on the grid are high, sometimes it happens. Sometimes, especially in September, you get electric companies buying back your electricity for $2 to $3 a kilowatt hour. You can decide to unload the electricity in your car to export it to the grid and make money when you export it to the grid. So you can store energy for resale. Then you have what? You have FSD. FSD Safety. FSD is about 4 times safer right now in its current version. And the current version is the monitored version where the driver is sitting and monitoring FSD. FSD is not, we don't have unmonitored FSD, but when you have FSD and monitored, you get the experience of the driver, and the driver is mostly here to intervene, to take interventions whenever there is an edge case. But most of the time, it's the software that drives, and the software sees things that you can see. 4 times safer, right? So that's I'm gonna say it's 4 times better. But when the car drives itself, which this will, make no mistake, this will eventually happen. We just don't know when. But when this happens, that difference will be priceless. Also, I could argue owning a car that will have that capability, or the ability to have that capability when that happens, that again makes almost of a priceless difference, because who's going to want to buy a car that does not have that feature when that feature comes around? I think there's going to be a much smaller pool of buyers for these cars that don't drive themselves. Vehicle to grid capability. So I've discussed this a little bit, but that's the same thing as storing energy for your resale. When you have vehicle to grid capability, when you can connect your vehicle to the grid, you can support the grid and sell energy to the grid. And then lastly, and this is an emergent feature of Teslas that may or may not come, but is distributed computing. Because you have a $1,400 graphics card on your vehicle, when your vehicle sits idle, what is that? It's not a graphics card, it's an AI processing card, it's a FSD chip. But what is that chip doing? That chip is just sitting there doing nothing. I believe you're going to be able to resell some of the compute capability of your Tesla to Tesla itself for them to run their own software, or for them to resell to third parties and be part of kind of a decentralized AWS, where the nodes are the cars in the network. So these are just some of the advantages that come to the top of my mind when I talk about Tesla cars and Teslas being a 0 to 1 product. If you see more advantages, feel free to say it in the comment section. This was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. I appreciate your likes. I appreciate your subscribes. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.